So, welcome. We are Kritfayle. I am Ghost. I'm joined by Adam and Emily, and our special guest, Drew Gaska.
And
And
your other special guest.
Adrian. Can't
And
forget
Adrian.
him.
Who is the true star of the show.
Absolutely.
So, you've done a lot of stuff that I'm really into. Space 1999, Planet of the Apes, the Buck Rogers novels, and now, of course, Alien, both working with the Alien Bible, but becoming the lead writer of the RPG, which was a huge surprise to us because I remember there was a RPG came out back in the 80s and it was factually very good, but it didn't play very good because it felt much like the Monster of the Week. And
the leading edge game,
yeah.
One of the problems, so the leading edge's rules were very much friendly towards people who like Warcraft and like all these. I mean, look, a single firefight, like two people shoot each other once, could take a half an hour in that game. But everything was like all the math and everything was right, so it was really cumbersome for something like Alien.
Okay.
But I had that game and I played it once. And instead I carried when I, that was 1990. So I was young. But regardless, what did you say?
Wet wheel.
Yeah. I turned 50 this month. So
that's us.
So,
Except for Emily, she's the child of the group.
I wasn't born in 1990. Anyway.
So the pages are falling out of my copy because I used to just tear down and read it a lot. We didn't play again, but I liked it a lot, So
Okay.
I made a conscious effort to take a lot of the planets and stuff that are from that book and to bring it into our game now. So you'll see a lot of on the map. You'll see all the worlds from that game are on our map. The creatures called the Octura is what they had as the Octurans, but it was a little weird the way they had it because they had the Octurans being unintelligent animals, and yet the Marines were kind of getting busy with them, and from what they said in Aliens, so I thought it was a little weird. So I changed it so that those were the Octura, and the Octurans are something else, and but I tried to keep what I could. Is what I'm saying.
Because from memory, the biggest difference between the two for me, and of course I only played that like when it first came out back in the 90s and that. So one thing that I loved about this version of Alien was it's not a one-trick pony, which is what it always felt like before. It's like, here's the alien, and how are you going to do that every single time again and again and again? When I was reading it, there was so much more information about the corporations, how people try to live, what the excesses, the limitations, and the alien in the actual core book only takes up really a tiny bit of the lore, whereas a lot of before, when we get these sort of things, it's always the vast majority of it. This has so much more information about the setting than it does the xenomorphs, and I felt when I was reading it that this could actually have a long-lasting like lifetime compared to the others, because you could do entire games that could be interesting and exciting and dangerous and have absolutely no xenomorphs in it.
Yeah, when so I mean, look, I had the benefit of 40 years of material to draw upon. Okay, and it's material I was already very familiar with because of what I was doing at Fox as a franchise consultant. So, if anybody doesn't know, I wrote 2 Planet of the Apes novels, and after the first one came out, Josh Izzo was the franchise director over at 20th Century Fox. Josh is a great guy. He's since moved on. I think he's with Lightstorm, whoever does the Avatar stuff. I think he's with them.
Okay.
But he called me one day randomly out of the blue and said, "Hey, I read your Apes novel, and I think you know this better than we do. Do you want to be a franchise consultant?" And I'm who says no to that?
True.
So I was just shocked, for one, that he had actually even read it, because in most cases, at least in that time period, what was going on is they'd give it to an intern and say, "Is it all right? All right. Rubber stamp it." This is why you'd have bizarro things which make no sense being in a property, because nobody really cared. It's like, it's comics. What do I care? It's not going to hurt the thing. And I would just get what? Oh, we got our $10 check from them. Great. That's the way they looked at it. Nowadays, there's much more coordination and realizing what that means to represent the brand by putting that comic out there and everything. So all this stuff is much more coordinated now. But so this was 2014 or 2015. I think it was 2015. And so I started, I worked on a bunch of Planet Apes stuff for them. And then that around the same time, the Blomkamp Alien 5 thing was, in the news. Okay. And my first thing they asked me to do on the Alien thing was like, okay, so this is, and I can't give details, but this is pretty much what's happening in the Blomkamp thing. Okay. Find a way to make that work without erasing Alien 3 and 4. I was like, no. I was like, I wasn't going to tell them no, but I was like, how the hell am I going to make that work? It doesn't make any sense. And then luckily that Ridley shut that down. So that didn't happen.
Okay.
I understand why there was some really good stuff in there, but it's also, I think it would have muddied the waters a lot if it had come out when it did. Maybe it'll come out, another time eventually, but I think Blomkamp's moved on. But regardless of that, I'd done all that stuff. And I don't remember what actually led us to starting this conversation, but I just gone on a tangent. So forgive me for that.
Good. No, it's all good.
So basically, while I was working over there, so I was exposed to all this stuff while I was working over there, obviously, and I was putting things together. And then I wound up being the sole writer for the Predator Bible. It says I wrote this 700-page document for them, which basically it's an encyclopedia to the Predator universe, pretty much. Covers every comic, every gun, every character, everything. From the beginning of the franchise through 2017, and there wasn't much work. This was at this point. Steve Zerlin was the franchise director. So, Josh Izzo had left, and there wasn't much work that they could give me there because it was it's a freelance gig. You don't have an office or anything like that. You just, hey, we have this thing we don't know. Random side note again. This is a funny story, so I have to tell you. I'm sorry, I just remembered it.
No.
No, yeah, we want to hear.
We want to hear.
I worked on that Predator Bible, and then it was done, and 6 months goes by, and the day after Thanksgiving, that Black Friday, I get a call from an exec over there at Fox asking me, do you think that the Predator is self-destruct is nuclear or not? I was like, well, they've never said it was nuclear, but it kind of looks like a mushroom cloud. So I'm going to go with, because it's kind of cool, but we should make it like a micro nuke. So there'll be fallout, but it won't be too bad because otherwise, come on. And he said, all right, that's what we're making it. And they hung up and I was like, on what? That's what apparently had something to do with the hunting grounds game.
Okay.
But I was just like, this is so surreal. 6 months after you're done with a project, is it nuclear or not?
You're like, what's the context?
All right, so that was another tangent. I'm tangenting in my tangents.
No, it's all good.
There wasn't a lot of work that they could give you there because of budgets and stuff like that. And with Fox also, before the Disney takeover, they didn't put as much as importance on this syncing of stuff that Disney does. But the guys I was working with, Josh Izzo and Steve Zerlin, they did, but they'd have to convince their bosses for budgets so that we could have a Bible and we could do this and we could do that. So Steve told me, listen, if you find for Alien, Planet of the Apes, or Predator, you find any category that doesn't have a publishing thing already, if you can push the company in our direction, we will tell them we really want you to write it. So we'll give you basically a door into it because they really wanted to do more stuff with me. So I shopped Alien around for 18 months. And everybody literally said to me what you said about it's a one-trick pony. It's one note. That's it. Nobody wanted to take it. And I mean, this basically made me say, hold my beer. I had been talking to one company over and over and over again. And they were the one I kept going back to because they kept saying, oh, let's have another meeting in blah, blah, blah weeks. And there was one time I was on the phone with this guy and it had been 18 months now. And he was saying the same thing that he'd said to me, which was clearly just the runaround because no, they didn't want to say no, just in case something happened that made them want to say yes. And while he was talking, I literally just started to hear like it totally drowned out what he said. And I hung up the phone. Well, I mean, I hung up the phone. I don't know. I still do this because I'm
because that's
hung
what
up
we
the
grew up
phone.
Yep.
And I immediately called my friend Joe LaFavi, who he makes these licensing deals happen in Hollywood. Like the Blade Runner game is because of the way he connected it. The Dune game, all these Altered Carbon, I think, a whole bunch of like all these things. That's what Joe does. So I called Joe and I said, Joe, I can't find anybody who wants to take this. Can you please do it and just let them know that Fox wants me to write it. And within 30 days, Joe had Free League lined up because he had been watching Free League's work and really was impressed with it. And he had started talking to them before he spoke to me. So like 2 weeks before he spoke to me, he asked them, if I were to get you guys licenses, what would be on top of your list? And they had said Alien. And then here I come saying, Joe, get me someone for Alien. So it's like everything just synced. And I
That's
don't remember what
amazing.
the original question was, but that was some information at least.
Absolutely.
Free League is definitely our favorite company. I love the I just got literally here is the Twilight 2000 arrived, and the last book I bought from a different company was about $65, and the Twilight box set was $65 with shipping, and there's a lot more in it. But the constant box sets is something I wasn't sure I necessarily thought was a great idea until I got them. And now I'm absolutely in love with them. I have all the Alien box sets so far, and everyone feels amazing.
Well, Chariot was released originally on its own. The core book and Chariot were released at the same time with a map pack and a dice set, 2 dice sets. And what happened was the core book sold out immediately everywhere. And all these retailers had random dice sitting around for a game that nobody had. They had this adventure that nobody could play because they didn't have the game. And so what they decided at Free League was, let's put all this together with a trimmed down size version of the rules in the starter set and make it affordable, because all those things together were like $85 or something. And the starter set is only $55.
Yeah.
So it's when they did that, and once they established the format for Alien with Destroyer, I was like, these cinematics are going to be fantastic each time, because you feel like you get it, and you're like, and there's this, and there's this,
Right.
Like, and there's more.
Yeah, and I get to see, oh, look what they did with my maps. That's great. So it's they really care about their products, and they really do great printing, and they're just top notch.
That was something I noticed when I got Chariots. Was normally companies seem to release what they call the beginner set, designed to teach people how to play, and it's really bad nearly always. It's always, if it's the mechanic, it'll always be like, do you want the mechanic to fix the computer? And actually, I want to try to, do you want the mechanic to fix the computer? It's so handheld that there's absolutely no, there's no flexibility, and that's the way it always is for every character. Do you want the soldier to shoot the thing? And they're like, well, no, do you want the soldier to shoot the guy?
No, you don't understand.
Question.
You do want the soldier to shoot the thing.
The guy.
Yeah, but when I got Chariots, the first thing I was like, this is not a beginner set. Was that part of the reason it's called a starter set rather than a beginner set? Because it's the most complex, and in a good way. I mean that in a really good way. Because normally these stories are terrible. They're just like really basic, and it's not. Chariot's a full-on story from beginning to end.
So originally Chariot was going to be in the core book. Okay. And the core book plus Chariot altogether was supposed to be like 225 pages.
Okay.
But I overwrite. So I think the core book is 400 pages or something like that, right? So the decision was made, we need the adventure that comes with the core book to be much smaller. So they pulled Dave Semark's convention adventure, which was Hope's Last Day. Actually, I think there's 3 acts to Hope's altogether that he wrote that he was running through conventions. So they just did the final act, which was the one that's in there, so that people would have something to learn the rules with that. And they decided Chariot would be a separate adventure. Now, originally, I wasn't writing Chariot; it wasn't called Chariot. I don't know what it's called, but I was just hired because I was the guy who did Bible stuff over it. So I originally wasn't supposed to be writing Chariot. I came from Fox doing the Bible stuff, so I was supposed to do the setting. And as I wrote the setting stuff, they were like, "Oh, he's putting funny things in here, and he's directly talking to the reader like you are the one doing this," you know. So they were like, that translated to, "Hey, can you go through the rules section and can you make this chapter a little sexier?" You know. So like, there's like the vehicle chapter. I think it started off with something like, just be careful whatever's hiding in your trunk or something like that. You know what I mean? Like little things like that, just so it's not just this is the rule and da da da. And then after that, whoever was working on Chariot either left or was fired, and I have no idea, and I've never pursued it. So I'm not talking badly about anyone in any way. I'm saying I don't know what happened, that they were gone. And Thomas called me and said, "Hey, do you want to take a stab at this?" And I was a game master for 23 years, you know, personally, but I retired that stuff. I didn't have time for fun stuff like that anymore. I wasn't doing it anymore. And I thought, well, you know, I've never thought I was going to do anything professionally with it, but damn, I'd love a shot to try that. So I tried it. And as I did that is when they realized this has got to be separate. It's too big. So my major philosophy when designing these things is, and I've said this on many interviews, so you've probably heard this part before. So when the party's supposed to go east, there's always some asshole who wants to go west.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I need to write so that the GM isn't flustered when that asshole does it.
Yeah.
So
That's me.
why,
That's me. I'm going this way.
well, honestly, I'm that guy too.
Yep.
Okay. Because I think outside the box. And it's like, I remember once when we were playing live, when Dave Semark was running an adventure live for a convention, and I was playing in it. Everybody, where we were all standing in the street, it turned out that I was the furthest away. So I could just, when they got ambushed, I could just back away. And and they were like, "You motherfucker."
I'm not involved in this.
I didn't do that to run away. I actually did it so that I could save them, and I did. But it looked at everybody like, "What the fuck is he doing?" So yeah, no, I'm the guy who does the thing you're not supposed to do. So I get it. But it's like, we're not playing a board game. There needs to be a way to move forward, and not every GM can think on their feet.
Yeah.
Not everybody has 23 years of experience, you know. So I want to make sure you have the tools you need. And sometimes I go way too overboard with that stuff, and things get cut out because of it. I think Destroyer's a hard one to tell because it was rewritten several times. But I think we probably lost about 10,000 words.
Okay, wow.
Which some of it I've been bleeding into the other products as we go. So, you know, because it's useful stuff. But really, I was trying to sell them before I realized what they were doing with the cinematic format. I was trying to sell them instead, let's just make Ariakis a campaign setting, you know, this planet. And that's why there's so much detail. And you could run a campaign with what we finally put out in the end. You could run a campaign that ends with Destroyer of Worlds on that planet, like just a bunch of stuff on that planet, because there's insurgents and there's the experiments and there's all these things going on, that there's just plenty of stuff to play with there. So yeah, I overwrite. That's my number one weakness, and I'm trying not to because I don't have time to anymore. Projects fall behind because I'm late, but I've turned in twice as many words. So why are we late? No reason. So.
Well, that was one thing I noticed when we played IGM Alien, and whenever I'd done D&D for many, many years, you never split the party. That's like the big mantra. It's almost, you know, they could almost devote a chapter to it. You know, one person at a tavern says, "I'm going to the bathroom," the whole party would go because you never split the party. In Alien, the first major room we got to, the entire fucking party went in different directions. So almost like
that's your fault.
They're almost like,
you give us interesting things, and
we all found different things we wanted to investigate.
And clearly, none of you have ever seen a horror film.
Oh well, actually, we have, but I think we did say while we were doing it, we're like, well, this is going to end horribly, but
Yeah.
I'm going to go over there.
What would my character do, right?
Yep.
So that's funny because like, and that's another thing. Like people complain about Prometheus. Why did they take their helmets off? Why are they that stupid? And I'm like, we can't even wear masks properly during a pandemic, and you're wondering why they're taking their helmets off.
So it's very realistic.
When we're in those situations, you guys went and did the horror film thing, even though you knew the horror film thing.
Yeah.
Good job, guys.
Thank you.
Has that been a problem at all with Alien as an RPG, in the sense that there's a very traditional view of what an RPG is and how an RPG plays, in terms of both the way the game plays, but also the way threats are placed against the parties, and the way that a story in a traditional RPG sort of is designed. It's almost a formula. Alien does things in a very different way when it comes to being an RPG. Is that it? Do you think that's caused a problem at all for people? Have they adapted well to it?
Yeah, well, I think long-time heroic RPGers like Dungeons and Dragons players have problems.
Okay.
I don't think Call of Cthulhu people have any problems because it's, they're used to this type of stuff. But it's not heroic fiction. It's survival horror. It's a different type of genre, and people need to they need to realize that. I think it's one of the problems we've had. And I say problems, it's minor stuff, but it's like I listen to this stuff because I'm like, well, what can we do to fix this? Even though maybe there's only 2 people who have an issue with this. Can we do anything? And I've come to some conclusions. And I've mentioned this a few times in things lately, but it's like it's all in newer stuff. So this is not a recycled story or anything. The only people I've seen who complain about the adventures are the ones who decided to make all these changes before they started it.
Okay.
Like, I don't want to use pre-gens, so we're going to use our own characters. Well, now you've thrown away the agendas.
Yep.
And so unless you take what you take away, you've got to put something to replace it. It's Indiana Jones with the gold hat, right? With the gold idol and the bag of sand. That bag of sand, it better weigh as much.
Absolutely.
Or that boulder's coming after us. So I don't like the prequel creatures, so I took it out with the alien in there. Well, you guys are dead, for one. And for 2, all the cool nuances of what was happening are gone now, because I specifically wrote Chariot so that it wasn't what you were expecting.
Yeah.
Because people are expecting, and then an alien appears. What appears is not an alien. And so and I've seen players that are like, wait, what is this? What describe it again? What is going on here?
It's not an alien? What?
And it's because if this came out and it was the alien, then this adventure might as well have just been the first movie. So it's like, I had parameters. Needed to have an ancient ship that's found. I was like, all right, well, it's not going to be an engineer ship. It's going to be a ship from a mission that was lost. So now we've changed it from the movie 1 point right there, and then let's change it from another point. And then at the end, I don't think Chariot feels like the first movie at all.
No, it doesn't. No. It doesn't.
But it's still, when you walk into it, you're expecting that. So you feel like I'm in the right surroundings. And then you're like, what the hell is happening? So then that's what it should be. Yeah. So if you're gonna change it all, you just make your own adventure, because you're really, or don't complain when it doesn't work out right.
True.
I think we ended up changing because we started off with rivals and friends, and just the nature of our role playing that was thrown out the window.
We started out. Yes. Were you supposed to be my rival, Adam?
Yes,
or you were supposed to be my rival? I didn't end up. That didn't end up working. I got along fine with you. In regards to the pre-generated characters and the agendas, we have found those very helpful in regards to roleplay, because it does give you a really good jumping off point. The agendas I find so cool. I loved having the secret that no one else knows about that impacts how you roleplay. Do you find the pre-gens kind of create a better party balance in terms of both mechanics and roleplay? Because you've got your mechanic and you've got your soldier, and that's all covered. But even in just terms of personalities, does it balance out better with those? Everything
I write in one of these cinematics is calculated. Like nothing is just like, oh, I'll give him a pretty bow. Well, that bow is going to have a purpose. Okay. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a novelist, so I come from this approaching it like a novel. It's like, you know, if there's a shotgun over the mantelpiece, it better be fired by Act 3. You know,
Absolutely.
So,
Chekhov's gun.
So we've got to and the variables in this, the way it works is that it's like everybody has to have the ability to be the character that winds up being the Ripley.
Yes.
Okay. Whether or not you recognize that as your character or make the right steps is another question. If I was writing this as a novel, I can write everybody like an idiot except for the Ripley character. I know where I'm going to go with this. But at your table, you know, for Destroy Worlds, Hammer survives, but sometimes it's one of the other characters. You know, it's never going to be the same thing with each group. And it all comes down to, how does that player utilize the tools I've given them for the character? What spin do they make on it? Hammer seems to be a character that I don't know if you guys are aware of. You haven't played Destroyer yet, so you don't.
Not yet.
No.
So Hammer's one of the Marine characters in Destroyer.
Okay.
I'm not going to give anything away, but he's a character that seems to inspire a completely different way to run that character each time. But each time it fits the cards. So you're not being railroaded. You know, it's your interpretation how to take it. And some people have just gotten so into this crazy character. I said too much. The person's got some issues, but so does everybody. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, but some people have gotten so into it, and I'm just watching this train wreck happening when I watch these videos, or someone tells me what happened, and I'm like, it's amazing. It helps players who haven't played before.
Absolutely.
To just have like it's an actor. What's my motivation? Okay. You know?
Yeah, so. You already got it there.
And I don't know if I answered the question. So I have a
I think you did. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Just shut up now.
No.
Do you believe there's any common misconceptions that players have going into Alien that a GM could help them sort of get over?
Well, the misconception is definitely going to be, don't expect your character to survive.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, even if you've made the character yourself, you know, in campaign play, it's easier to survive. But you still can't count on it. You know, in the Colonial Marine book, so Colonial Marine book really made it easy to run a campaign thing out of, because it's military. So what happens is, if your character dies, okay, we have backup Marines that are on the ship anyway. So you can pick up one of those guys, or you can pick up somebody who's at the location you're at instead. But you can create a new character for the next one, and that's the person who's been rotated in to replace that one, because that's what happens in the military. So it's really easy to deal with it. But you know, I tell everybody, even Ripley only made it through three cinematic adventures before she died. So, you know, it's a spoiler alert for a movie.
Anyone who didn't realize already?
Well, we're very sorry for them.
But even though, like, you know, we knew at the end of our game that we were all destined to, you know, be a part of the
to perish horribly.
Yep. We really embraced our characters. I think, you know, having, you know, providing those backgrounds and agendas and also helps us as far as, you know, adopting our characters and actually getting in there and playing the best that we could.
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing, but I love John Carpenter's The Thing. And at the end, you know, the movie is like, none of us are getting out of here alive. Why don't we just warm up things a little bit? You know, if that's what you got to approach these things as.
Absolutely.
You know, it's and that's why it's not. That's another thing. It's like, well, Destroyer's a sequel to Chariot, but it's not the same characters.
Right.
It's a meta overall. Like, you're learning parts of what's going on in the universe, and all these things connect, but these people by themselves would never know.
It's a sequel for the players, not the characters.
Yeah, for the players and the GM, it's a sequel. And it's like, and here's another thing. This is another thing that I saw complaints about originally, and then they quickly shut up, and I'll explain why. There's a really random event that happens in Act 2 in Destroyer.
Okay.
And people, well, what was that? It made no sense. I don't know why they did that. Well, that was the opening shot of the war that's in the Colonial Marine operations manual. everything falls out of that thing that happens in season 2, in act 2. And once you get that book, you're like, oh my God, that's what was going on. And it's like, I try to explain to people, like, it's the same argument of where did the egg come from in Alien 3? Okay, the egg that's on the ship, okay? We're not supposed to know, because if you were in the World Trade Center during 9/11, right? You're not like, I wonder if this is that bin Laden guy who's responsible for this. You're like, shit, I need to get out of here and I need to live. And Ripley wasn't privy to why that happened. It just happened. Shit happens. Okay. Did someone else board the ship? Did the Queen leave a spore? Who knows? We don't know. And she wouldn't know. The only thing that knows is that black box that Bishop got connected to. So she didn't ask Bishop the question about it because she's more concerned about how to deal with what's going on now, which also makes sense. I'm not going to worry about what leads to all this. I'm going to worry about how can I survive at this moment.
Absolutely.
And audiences sit back and they don't put themselves into the shoes of the character in the movie and think, well, what would really matter at this point, you know? And the role-playing game helps to do that for you. It helps because you are in those shoes now. And I think a lot of the people who thought, well, this doesn't make sense, why would you do that? They were like, oh, okay. Because I gave them the answer later. But I saw a couple write-ups online. It's like, well, I didn't really like the idea of Act 2, so I dropped that.
Oh, well.
So you dropped the thing that not only did you drop the thing that led to the Colonial Marine Operations Manual, but you dropped the thing that is now being covered in the next several novels in the Titans thing, and is mentioned in Fireteam. So good job. Have some faith, please, guys. We're trying to do this, you know. But I'm just please. I don't want you to think that a lot of people complain because they don't. I see. No. We get a lot. We've gotten tons of awards.
Yeah.
Community is super positive, but every now and then I see something, and my first thought is, what did I do wrong? And I don't. It's not because I don't have self-esteem or anything. It's just that I've always felt like, okay, you have a problem with me. What did I do wrong? Did I actually do something wrong? No, okay, I didn't. What did I do to make you feel that? How can I fix that in the future so you don't feel that next time? And that's how I try to deal with my personal relationships, and that's how I deal with my business relationships. And it's when I write. So on Planet of the Apes, when I wrote my Planet of the Apes novels, I was hired by Fox to write the timeline of Planet of the Apes. And the Planet of the Apes is a little complicated because no one gave a shit what anyone else did each time. Like the second movie literally contradicts half the stuff that's in the first movie as they came out, you know, because they're like, no one has VHS. That's not even invented yet. So, you know, they didn't even think about that stuff. So it's like, okay, so how do I make these? And I answered a shit ton of questions in my books that fans are like, oh my God, finally we understand why that works. And it works. This guy came up with something for it. And some fans are like, how dare you? My 40 years, I have known in my head how this works. And you dare. I'm like, who are you? I'm the guy who they hired to do it. That's all I am. Okay. But I learned a lot from that. Okay. I learned, how can I approach things with aliens so that that nonsense doesn't happen? And the solution was the barroom canon thing that I've come up with. I don't know if any of you've heard me talk about.
Yes, I have. Yeah.
So it's like, go ahead.
Oh, feel free to explain it, Drew. Yep.
And any story that's ever come out for Alien, at the very least, it's been overheard in a bar when the music was really loud and the guy was drunk and talking about a story his cousin told him. Okay, so that comic may just be that story, or it may be true. And in your campaign world, it's up to you to decide. So even though Disney has a set canon for this, so Alien 3 really happened, not the Gibson Alien 3. Okay. But in your campaign, I've given you seeds that if you decided to pretend that the rumor is what happened in Alien 3 and the truth is what happened in Gibson's Alien 3, you could take it that direction if you want. So Rodina Station blew up, and then Anchor Point Station blew up right after. Those are 2 points that happen in Gibson's Alien 3. Okay. Some reports say that there was a corporal named Hicks there. Some people say it was Corporal Bob, you know, and I'm just, but nobody knows for sure, because why would you necessarily know for sure? In the real world, is a space trucker going to know for sure? You know, So that's up to the GM and the players at the table to decide, hey, which direction do we want to take this in? So that's the solution I found. And I haven't had anybody saying, how dare you on this when I had how dare yous on Planet of the Apes. So, like I said, I try to absorb this stuff. And if I think, wow, that guy really doesn't know what he's talking about. But I also see why he got the wrong impression from this. So what can I do to fix it?
Yeah, they did that in the Dust Boat TV series. You'd have one U-boat crew talking to another, and they'd say, "Oh yeah, I know the cook of U571 who said that the captain of U221 went right into the middle." And you're like, "No one knows. Yeah. This is all hearsay." But now they're all treating it like this is truth. This is fact. The cook said.
Yeah, the cook said it. Exactly.
That needs to come up.
Michael Burnham can never actually exist because Spock never mentioned her. Well, Spock originally said that his mother, that he had a human ancestor. He didn't even say that it was his mother, which is quite close to not an ancestor.
A little close to being an ancestor, yeah.
Then later on, he admits. A few episodes later, he admits, because they weren't figuring this out at the time, but this is, they were like, hey, why don't we just make his mother? He admits it was his mother, but it's the way he talks about it in that episode, which is like 6 episodes later. It sounds like his mother and dad are dead, that they passed away, because he talks about them in the past tense.
Yes.
Okay. And then Sarek and Amanda come on the Enterprise, and Kirk's like, oh, you want to go down to Vulcan and visit your family while the ambassador's here? And it's like, that will be not necessary. The ambassador is my father. And it's like, what? Then in Star Trek 5, oh, I have a brother, Sybok. It's like, Spock doesn't tell people about his family. It's fine. He doesn't have to. That doesn't mean he doesn't have them. Yeah. We've never seen the toilet on an Enterprise. Except, well, in Star Trek 5, we see the emergency toilet because Kirk in the I'm a Star Trek nerd. In the cell, he hits a button and it pops out, and it's clear. It's the lids on it, but it's clear that it's the toilet for the thing. So we've never seen an open toilet on the Enterprise. And I'm pretty sure people have to go to the bathroom. I don't think I need to see it to know that it happens.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So yeah, the universe is bigger than what people think. Someone says, "Well, that was 300 years ago." Well, it probably was 300. It was probably 297 years ago. But the guy just said 300 because he rounds up, because that's what we do. But excuse me, you have it off by 2 years. No, we don't.
Yes.
So, sorry, another tangent.
No, it's all
a good tangent.
Yeah. Did being a novelist help? Because games, things like Blade Runner and Alien are extremely visual in how, not just because they were movies, but the whole thing about them is visual. And transferring that to an RPG, written word and spoken word, I imagine is not the easiest thing. So yeah, did being a novelist help in how to convey the scenes to the GM and therefore the players? Absolutely.
I mean, and what helped me be a good novelist, I think, is the fact that I thought I was going to be an artist. I went to art college. I have a degree. It's I realized that I was no longer getting what I saw in my head on the paper when I was in college. Like in high school, I was like, everything. Yes, that's exactly what I intended to draw. And then I was like, I'm not getting it anymore. And I was introduced to my writing teacher was Denny O'Neil from Batman fame. He was in charge of Batman at DC Comics for 15 years. He basically, the Christopher Nolan Batman is based on his version from the 70s. And Denny was in the 90s. Denny was teaching at School of Visual Arts. He was teaching like comics writing classes in Manhattan. And I took his class, and he really pushed me to be a writer. And when my parents ran out of money and I had to drop out of school I dropped out for 5 years and came back and finished it afterwards. I went to him and I was embarrassed. I was like, listen, I won't be in class next semester. It's not because I don't love this class. I love this class more than anything, but my parents can't afford it. And he said, no, I'm going to teach you privately. And I was like, what? I said, no, you understand we don't have the money. He's like, no, I'm going to take you out to lunch every 2 weeks on DC Comics credit card. And we're going to put together a Catwoman script that we're going to then put in the drawer. And I'm going to make sure you have a chance to get on this. And the guy was great. And I wrote a Catwoman script that, I don't know if you guys know what in the drawer means with comics, but I can explain it if you don't. I'm sure someone out there doesn't who's watching.
Yeah, no, I don't. So
okay. So you'll be reading a comic story, and it's part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, and then suddenly it's the day we went to the beach. and then part 6
Mm.
Maybe we went to the beach is because part 6 is really running late.
Ah,
That monthly schedule. Pull something out of the goddamn drawer, throw it to a different artist, and let's just get an issue out.
okay.
So my Catwoman script never got published. It sat in the drawer because it wound up never being needed. Okay.
Mhm.
But I had that at least, and he was great. He was great. He got me an opportunity to, I was almost assistant editor on Justice League in the 90s. But I screwed up the interview because I was afraid of computers. I was like, when you save the file, where does it go? I don't know. It disappears. How do I know it's going to be there next time? I was so paranoid about that in the early 90s, and I screwed up the interview because of it. And the guy who became the assistant editor 6 months later, the editor wanted an assistant editor so he could groom him and take over. And that guy became in charge of Justice League over at DC. So I was like, no, I ruined a whole career path, but then I never would have been where I am now. So it's,
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sorry. I do this a lot. You got to focus me because I go all over the place with these stories.
No. We
All good.
are Kritfayle by name, Kritfayle by nature.
Mhm.
That's awesome. Yeah, so the visualness, like I had writer friends who didn't go to art school, who didn't have the degree that I did. And I don't think the degree is important so much as that you picked up what what was going on there. If you go for 2 years and you got a whole information, never graduated, who cares? No one has ever once asked me for my diploma.
Right.
But they tend to describe, a lot of people describe things in well, it's an eyeball, so I'll say eyeball. And an eyeball is round. So it's like my favorite thing. Okay, I'm all over the place again. Jaws 2, the novelization of Jaws 2 is an amazing novel. Okay, I recommend it. It sounds bizarre. It is so much better than the movie. It is written by Hank Searles, who was a great author. Okay, but instead of saying the sun sets, Hank says, the sun was a lazy red ball bouncing on the horizon.
Mm.
Okay. What did you get in your head there? You visualize it slowly going down, right? That's beautiful. And I try to make sure every disgusting thing I describe in the alien stuff is like that. Like when the eyeball shoots across the room and things like that. Oh, you haven't played Cherry yet. Never mind.
Cool. We got an eyeball to look forward to.
Yeah, no, I'm like, okay, how can I describe this in a way that no one would have ever thought to describe it, but immediately understand what I'm saying and think, ew. That's what I go for with it, and that's the visual thinking there. Because I think, well, what does it look like? What is it, rather than what it is, what does it look like? And how do I describe what it looks like in words?
Which leads into the question, Jaws was most terrifying when the shark wasn't seen, and, Alien, does that work the same way? And we're not, obviously with some of the games that, that are coming up, it's not always going to be the alien. So it's just that fear of the unknown, right?
Yeah, I think it works better when you don't know what it is that's there. I mean, you're like, and an alien appears, the players are like, all right, I know what's going to happen now. It's like, so I've been trying to put variance in things.
Oh, okay.
An alien appears and they're like, I don't know what's going to happen. And then the alien does something that you don't, and you're like, what the hell did that thing just do? This is not what I saw in the movie. Okay, wait a minute. I need to rethink this. You got to keep the players on their toes because that's literally every single movie. The alien has done something that he hadn't done before. In the second one, we have a queen, which we'd never seen before. And the third one, it comes out of the dog or a bull, depending on which version you look at, and it acts very different than the other ones. It's always like, what the hell now? It's always building on what it was last time. And the whole idea of the black goo from Prometheus was to explain stuff like that because it's a different type of evolution. One of the most positive things that I've said this before too, that I've gotten from fans, and it was like right after Chariot came out, was a fan review that said Chariot of Gods redeems the Alien prequels. I don't think they need redeeming. I love them. Okay. But I understand what they're saying there because they think I took the elements that they didn't see was cool because they just didn't like the plot.
Okay.
I took the elements out and I showed them how cool they can be if you use them in a different way. Because all the prequel stuff really opens up the world for the role-playing game. There's so many more options of things you can do. drop an alien in the black goo, and then what's going to happen then? Is it going to mutate? There's all these different things you can do with it. Any creature you can think of, add the black goo to it, and now what's it going to be? It's going to be something different, And I really loved.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. What did you say?
No, you go. Sorry.
Aside from different type of creatures, the motives of the engineers, which we don't quite understand and we never should.
Mm.
There's something called the border bombers that are in the Colonial Marines operations manual, which I'm guarantee you everybody who's encountered them thinks they know who they are, and they're wrong. And
Excellent.
It says in the book that I have instructions in there to keep your players guessing. It doesn't even tell you in the GM's book. And I had one or two GMs I saw that were pissed off. Why didn't they tell us? Because we're building to something, man.
Just be patient. Just wait.
Play it by the guidelines. Run it by the guidelines we have there, and you won't regret it later on. If you don't want to run it by the guidelines, then sure, go and make your own campaign with that as an inspiration and do it because it's your table. But I'm not going to say what it is because we don't want you to know what it is yet. And go ahead and think you know what it is. Now that's being addressed in some of the novels that are coming up now. So you're going to find out maybe what it is in the novel, and then maybe you'll find out it was wrong in our next book. But Alien needs to be what is going on? What is the unknown? I don't understand this. And the more you have that played up, the more you're actually doing it like the movies do it.
I think I started to enjoy the prequels a lot more once I decided David is not necessarily the place I should be accepting as truth with everything that is going on.
Absolutely. I mean, people are so angry about that. Like, the only person in universe who said that David created the aliens is David. And he really doesn't have a reliable track record. Okay.
Yeah.
And in fact, in the novelization and in the script, he recreated the alien from an egg he found in the engineer's place. Okay. The dissected egg is sitting behind him in the movie. On the set, Ridley decided, you know what? Let's leave this ambiguous and not make it clear what's going on. And so it was an ad lib the way they changed it. But the novelization and the script, you look at them and they both said, he clearly says, yes, I found this amazing thing and decided I wanted to recreate it. So that was the intention. In the end, will he be the creator? Even if he is, there's something crucified that looks like an alien in Prometheus on the wall in the chamber with the urns. So is that the creature that is not the alien, but is the alien before the alien that might as well be the alien? And really, even though he did create this, he really was creating something else. It's stop just taking everything that's said and taking it at face value. It's supposed to say, wait, what now? That's what you're supposed to do. And I think Ridley has done that in a way with this one that has caused a lot of controversy, which maybe that's what he wanted. Maybe he does intend it to be David Mead, or maybe he was just like, I'll take a piss,